Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday for Korean Frontier, and also another time of having my special guest Zach Keilman. And we're pretty much technically we would be at the end, though I'm going to say probably at the end because the with the how the International Arena League is, it's just kind of weird because honestly, in 3 or 4 weeks we could hear something maybe they're gone or some weird formation because we just don't know with that league, but. The IFL completed their season with their championship game, but also announcing expansion teams. And then technically, we kind of had a trade for team in a way for the AAL and the NAL now. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
interesting how it's close to the off season and we got all these announcements coming so far this end of the year.
No, it's the beginning of silly season. Happens every late summer to go in early fall, and it's actually kicked off in really high gear this off season, even more so than I think in recent years. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton to talk about, a lot of movement right now.
Yeah, so I guess before we we'll start with like the new teams and stuff because we had the championship between Arizona and Green Bay. Very good championship game, with, of course, with the
Mhm.
storylines of Max Maylor and Kamari Clark facing their former team of Green Bay Blizzard, though it was kind of interesting with the how the Green Bay owner and the sideline reporter reacted with each other. Kind of weird, but it's kind of interesting there. So I guess we'll start there because we already knew that they had a Texas team, though interesting, it's called the Texas Draft for their team. And now how they worded it, and a lot of it, we talked about this before the show, it's like technically they don't have a home, but they might just for their home games play in Texas. So it's kind of interesting how they even put that out there. It's like it's not just like they are going to go to the other stadiums, of course, where the other teams, but it just seems like it's just a revolving Texas home thing, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's definitely a travel team setup if that is what they're setting up for, just based on what's being said right now. And it's kind of a unique position because, we saw last year, and I know with tumultuous effect in many ways that, you know, Oceanside has San Diego in it, and the Bombers, who are now the Stealth, moved in. Outside of organizational dysfunction, you saw that crowds for both those teams are able to maintain. So this year, it seems like Austin was kind of like a top tier market. The AF1 had been wanting to get in for some time. The IFL had been wanting to get in for some time, and now, both are going the same time because they look at each other as rivals. And what's interesting is that to me, I was surprised the IFL team didn't at least have a court, at least look like to have a stadium set up in that regard. Um, that being said, though, uh, if pulled off right, and given that the timing's right, that the IFL's at like a peak of like almost bulletproof in a way, with you can have something like a travel team, and you talk any other league, this is going to get knocked out of the park and kind of railed on. Here this is a good situation where they can, with the people that they already know, can run teams, by the way, because, the folks that are over here are from San Diego originally. Uh, these guys can go in, they can work on kind of building a brand in that west to central Texas kind of scene, as you can see, and kind of go from there, and I think they also have, in terms of what their gamble is, that they feel they have the better group, I think, long term, to where they can probably more establish themselves in Austin long term. Whereas, AF1, I'm still have questions about that group. We'll talk more about that, but it's fascinating because again, like with the IFL brand on your back now, and they also I saw, I believe it was I believe they already have their head coach, I believe, signed up too. So, you know, they've got a lot of leeway, I think, with this with the fans of this space to kind of do what they want right now. And travel team be damned, you know, it's feels weird to say a travel team doesn't have as much pressure on it. It feels like.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And of course, if for people who don't know, like the other Austin team is the Austin Bolts within the AF1, though shockingly, after the announcement, they already put announced releasing of some type of it front office person out of nowhere. Of course, they put in that
Yeah.
AI kind of slop. I was like, okay, you just announced your existence and this happened. All right. Then again, as I said, you mentioned because that thing was whole weird with the Oceanside. They were the Bombers, then all of a sudden they got new ownership, and now they're the Self, and also changed their colors with just a different, darker shade of blue because they were blue. And I don't know, we were all confused with that because they showed the team and the name during of the day of the game, but the announcement didn't happen until like days after that game. So it was
Right. Right.
very confusing how they chose to do the choices of to announce that way, but I digressed. Then the one thing that actually surprised me, we already talked about the Athens, Georgia team that is co-owned by Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis and also former St. Louis Cardinal Brian Jordan. And just
Mhm.
because even though he has a thing with the Braves, he actually started his career here in St. Louis. And actually, a few Cardinal fans were like, "Oh, he's doing that." And might you see and hope, and by next week or the week after, we'll find out the Bullfrogs are actually is the name for that team because right now that's the one that they're hoping for from a lot of people that we've seen on social media. The one that's surprised me, and it's not a very far drive, it's a 4 hour drive, is Savannah, Georgia. So that one was kind
Yeah.
of surprising, and now they're building a little bit more in the Southeastern Conference area because now they got the two teams in Florida with that in-state rivalry. Now they got Georgia. Then of course you got the Austin, Texas. Then they haven't like got maybe some more like because we know there's some teams in Birmingham now with Arena or trying to because of a different league. We don't have to get into that because we already know about we have the Montgomery City Catfish in the AAL, so that's one thing there.
Mhm.
I'm still surprised. Like there is some Mississippi Arena teams just not in the IFL right now. They're just building that southwestern part there. And for Savannah, they already did announce it, both a coach and a GM. If I can get my computer to load here, because here we go. Right now, the GM of the Savannah, Georgia team, the assistant GM, Anthony Tanza, but and also director of personnel, but also right now the head coach. Right now, they just have Savannah indoor football team with the color. I don't know, kind of looks like the colors on the Capri Sun label right now with the light yellow and green and some of the blue there. That's what it reminds me of that logo. And their new head coach is Clay Harrell. Uh,
Yeah.
got so that's actually not a bad pedigree there. So that's I just thought that's a good get for them because that's also helps them in the travel here. And course, the other surprise there, and we'll mention, is that the Arkansas Diamonds are now leaving the Arena League and going to the IFL. So that goes more of the Southeastern Conference area for indoor football. Because I know I think we talked about because Arkansas has been someone that a lot of these up arena leagues want to get there, not just for getting in there, but also location wise for any of the leagues for travel. So what did you think about that? Because it was kind of interesting that the owner was at the IFL stuff before the AL stuff, and so far there hasn't been any discernment with the Arena League or a lawsuit coming, like happened with the Duluth Harbor Monsters, now the Minnesota Monsters in the AF1 as of right now.
Look, my thing with the Arkansas one, wasn't expecting that, but I've only heard great things about the ownership that is over there in Hot Springs, even since the rebrand. I think I'm more surprised, and again, like I said, the ownership's good. I think what I was shocked by was, the IFL has been very adamant via Todd Tryon's quotes that they would be very selective and uh, very much picky and slow on the expansion process. And it didn't seem like there were many other candidates out there that are bigger name arena bets in terms of like owners that they could go to that were existing in the space right now. Uh, I mean, outside of like I don't like say like a Nashville or like an Albany or a Jump, but I don't see that happening at all. And I think I'll be curious to see how they develop because I mean, again, TAL has a little bit different specs in terms of like arena and size and style, but like still, that doesn't mean they can't adjust. We saw the Monsters, they came over. Clearly, they were an ownership that was ready to make a leap, and they impressed this past year in AF1. So The TAL, I think you're seeing owners that have a lot of ambition, a lot more capital than we expected. And I think they are tired of, at least from what I gathered from these two moves, and at least from what I understood was supposed to be a third one, maybe that was happening. Uh, that I think these guys want higher level competition and higher level kind of like means to go and get the best of the best players and less control, say, from the TAL. Because TAL definitely comes off as a very controlling league in terms of IP, in terms of how they run things and manage their property. So there is that element. But what I will say, Will, and this is my thing I said just before we got on the show, knowing my understanding of how the IFL works, they are always doing something behind the scenes that no one is talking about or no one is, I think, being allowed to discuss. And unlike, I think, say, the AF1 and Minnesota situation, I think this one's been under discussion a lot longer than people may have assumed. And I think the IFL, knowing the IFL's track record, they probably already had their hands dirty with getting this ready to go. So it doesn't shock me in that sense that if, say, the TAL doesn't do anything, because I guarantee you that there's already been something, because this is the playbook. They do this, and it's how the space is. It's very cutthroat. But clearly they identify that these guys have the means of capital and the means of being an upper level team to where they can make the leap. So I am very curious to see how the Diamonds do in the IFL. Especially that's the cream of the crop league. You want little to no silliness or funny business going on, and the IFL doesn't tolerate that anymore, or at least doesn't tolerate much of it anymore. It's the best of what we can say to that.
Yeah, though with the stuff with happening around the New Mexico Chupacabra, someone would think differently, but
Yeah, I mean that's as far as it goes. Like
yes.
they still put on a season, but that's probably the litmus test of like, okay, how much can you, and I hate to say it like this, how much can you get away with in the IFL before things are like, okay, you're not a good participant on a league level. So that's kind of like the bottom of the barrel to me. The IFL, I would say right now, people don't expect mid-season closure. That's the thing. That is the standard. If that is to happen, I think that's shocking anymore with the IFL. They do off-season teams that move on or whatnot. We've seen that, but that's becoming rare. This is just how the business model's been, how they've been with like slowly grabbing new people from either big leagues or most often bigger name, as we've seen with like Athens, or I think maybe even we'll see with Savannah, bigger name investors outside to help then set them up to success and giving them a year plus of leeway of launch of whatnot to get them antiquated and ready to go.
Yeah, though if I were to think if there might have been another team like I don't know, the Iowa Woo, even though they play at the University of Northern Iowa college stadium now, which is not a bad idea. I kind of liked it.
Right.
So like course, then again, we did have that. We have to remember that it wasn't too long ago. This league with the St. Joseph Goat. Well, they were the Kansas City Goats. Then they moved to St. Joe, and then they actually had to play their games in a high school field, which frankly that wasn't very successful. And also, as you and I talk, probably low in rent.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you have to think because when it comes to the St. Joseph Goats, they have, of course, the Kelsey brothers in part of that ownership. So you kind of have to wonder, could they be thinking about something there too?
Right.
So,
Well,
and
and if
like,
you're the TAL, Will, I think your next mission is, what do we want to be and how do we keep teams from leaving is the thing. I'm not saying this is going to be a regular occurrence every year. I think that there still are teams that I think I look at that current slate that exists right now and like, you know, I guess if I were to throw out names, like I think like you know teams that have back, like you mentioned, St. Joseph, Monroe's got guys, the folks from Duck Dynasty, the Robertsons that are backing them. You've got Nebraska and Ozarks, who have both been really higher caliber teams, and Nebraska is a former market that's an IFL market. That wouldn't be too far of a stretch to you know if this is the play, and if you are having teams that want to be more ambitious, that would take a leap. Now, does that happen? I don't know. What's the TAL's tools to stop this from happening? I don't really know, unless there's like you find more ways to get more capital or more games in, because it feels like the teams that are leaving either they aren't gelling well with the ownership of the league at the moment, or they feel like the TAL is not expanding itself enough to be as competitive as it could be. And I think it's the latter rather than the former in this case.
Though I think there also is maybe some safety concerns. I'm forgetting which team, but there was one arena that it looks like they didn't have enough padding on the outside, and it like gone into like part of a gym floor or basketball court look
Yeah,
type. And I'm like, how did that get passed by the league and all that stuff? It's not compared to leagues that we other things that we see in the past. That was like actually a lot better than what we seen, like mismatched fields or turf that's ripped apart or stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. And so far, they're going to have to find a replacement team now. And one thing you said too, because the Robertsons with Monroe, I'm pretty sure there's probably arena in the Louisiana, and they IFL probably wants Louisiana market right now. So, and then like I said, the Kelsey brothers with Sato. I'm pretty sure,
yep.
because here's the thing: if they decided to, Kansas City does have an arena that was, even though it was built for basketball, not used, and that did have arena football at one point for the AF1 if they decide to go there and able to have good rent with them. Because honestly, that arena was only just for music mostly now or other
Right.
sporting events. So that's something that could probably come into play. We'll see. But it just be interesting. And then and with the talks, because you mentioned that even the other owners said, like, with the comparing to other leagues, I don't know if that kind of was like a slapback to like the AF1 with how happened with them this year, because like even right now, like the Oregon Lightning, they said they're going to be playing next year. We just don't know where, but that's what they
Right.
said. So I don't know. And still, like, I'm looking at like the possible stuff, and then of course I have no idea what the thing with the Stockton Crusaders still is right now. They have a press conference, still no announcement where they're playing. And so I just don't know. That one's still a quagmire to me.
Yeah, I think right now, if I had to take a gather with the Stockton one, and this is just my 2 cents based on being, I would say, in the space and kind of going the years gone by, seeing how this works. I know. I mean, we know Stockton's been connected to the AF1 now for 2 years, so that's not new. I think the question is, they do show that they have more and more shown they got investors and people that have bought in. I think the question is that really enough capital to do it? Because I think for the AF1, and I know that this doesn't speak to it as much because we've seen this past 2 years that they still are. I feel like jumping the gun too quickly on just taking teams that are asking and not totally being honest with, is this a realistic option to add to the league? I think Stockton, they want in, but I feel like they're actually being more cautious themselves. And I feel
Mm,
like the AF1's also now possibly going to be more cautious with even them, given that we had another year, another team leave early, and some turmoil elsewhere as well that had to kind of get quelled down mid-season. So personally, I think it comes down to, Stockton, is this really that they have the capital, and do they have this ready to go? I also was told by a good friend of mine, who is from South from the Central California area in Stockton, Sacramento, that the mayor of Stockton does like to announce things like this in a premature fashion. But this isn't the first time, apparently. And again, I'm
hmm.
not saying this won't happen, but part of why she was also there is because this is also apparently status quo for her administration in Stockton. So I should
Okay.
also say that this is the tip I got from someone who knows the area well and has lived there and knows the politics of Central California. So um,
So
take that as
this is
well with you.
so this is more on the local politics rather than the actual ownership
Well,
of the team, which
I
is kind
think
of weird.
I also would say that the announcement also is used to garner interest as well. If they really don't have the extra capital needed, saying you have the backing of the mayor and the city of Stockton and the arena wants you there, that usually can be used as an incentive to, say, a pitch deck or
Yeah.
something of that net nature to potential investors or people that buy into a team. So again, this is what I under is the like speculative, but also I guess intelligently speculative, if you want to call it that, Will. But they're interesting because I think everyone looks at Stockton and goes, yeah, that would be smart if, say, you do have a bridge and geographically a bridge for these West Coast teams, specifically Washington and Oceanside, that they can kind of relieve stress. Because again, it's cool that the AF1 is nationwide. But as Steve Titus also said as well, that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stress to put on to a league. Which I mean, if we don't leave this show without mentioning him ranting and
Oh,
essentially
I mentioned
putting
his
out dirty
tweets last
laundry.
week, and it's interesting what a lot of the stuff he said. Even though he said he's still part owner of the AF1, and
Yeah,
I said not good things about Jerry Kurtz in those tweets.
yeah,
Though it was like, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit here. Then, like with when it comes to the IFL too, because there's still two rumored ones. Because for a moment there's still that rumor of because when you look at the location, they still don't have much in the northeast area, even though they left a northeast market to go south.
right.
So and like, if somehow, like, I'll just say this: if the AF1 starts having trouble, Albany might have to look elsewhere, and that's someone that the IFL might want to look at, probably. But I
Right.
don't want them to do that, but because, like, even though it would be less leagues, we still need some more leagues and couches because there's some that look good, some good now. Like, heck, uh, it's hard for me to believe right now. I have more confidence in the American Arena League than the AF1 right now. That's so weird for me to say. It
Yeah, I
just,
mean, I don't blame you. And again, I think Steve laid it out pretty crystal clear, and it's something that has bugged me. And honestly, well, it has me kind of wanting to step away from this space a lot. Is just like, what's the business plan?
yeah.
Again, like I don't mind we get teams or brand new teams, and you have to get expansion fees, and that funds certain things. That's been a traditional model for decades now, but as I think Titus put best, and I know he's very brash and he does not hold back when he's frustrated, as we've seen over the recent years, what is the business model here? I think that's something I even asked last year, or this past season, just kind of like even when I've been more so involved in the sake, watching like, for example, Beaumont's first home game,
Mm-hmm.
again, if we're grabbing teams, what what is the threshold of us being in sync? It feels like when I look at like say the IFL or the NAL or even like I'll even throw in the AAL for the most part, TAL kind of. These teams are on the same page with the front office. They know what is supposed to be done right now. That's actually something I gotta give props to the NAL this past year. Is they've shown that hey, we have a plan. We all have to follow the plan. We can't deviate from the plan, and we are very crystal clear about what the plan is and what your role is. And I think something that annoyed me with AF1 this past year, I think has also gotten a lot of people frustrated because as we saw with the Arena Crown this year, and also the media exposure it got, and the playoffs also. When it's good, it's good. AF1 has good football. It has potential. What drives me nuts, as someone who prefers arena over indoor, is that I can't stand by and watch the same people running this make mistakes and not make a business model work or have a business model set in stone. And to me, that's what's not being presented at the table right now compared to some of these other leagues. We're not sitting down, they are not sitting down, that is, and saying, okay, we can't get the big fish. We aren't landing the big contracts we felt right away. What's the next best thing? You know, there is plenty of money in smaller companies to be had on the table. Why are we not pursuing, or they not pursuing something that's a little more your level? And I think that that might be the disconnect. A lot of it is, first off, that AF1 brand doesn't hold stake at a national level as much as say AFL did before, and quite frankly, it's not the top brand right now out there. Second off, it just you can't be sitting here and leaning on expansion fees. And third off, you have to be honest with the people you're bringing in and telling them right out the gate what the high end money you need to run a football league. I'll tell you, Will, the thing that bugged me the most, and this is just, I'll say this from an anonymous person I was told. Um, I don't think people are being fully honest over in the AF1 about how much capital is needed to run a football season.
Hmm.
And that was really kind of the final nail in the coffin this year for me. Was I think a lot of people are being dishonest with how that needs to be run. So, you know, I hope that that is a change that's been needing to be needed. Now, I also will say this too, you know, and credit, I don't know how the office is run day by day. I know it's probably not, there's no physical office. None of these leagues have really a physical office per se. But my 2 cents to Mr. Titus is maybe you need to take a little more initiative and be a little more in there on, I think, being in someone's face in terms of moving this thing along. Because I know that there's certain people that have the funds that are really mainly running this, but I feel like some voices need to probably step it up and take a stand on what we need to do to be sustainable is the deal. And I think that's why, because like again, you see Barstool and some of these places. Now, I know John Gruden also owns part of the Cats. Sure, I'll label that. But you saw the end of that Arena Crown. It popped off that it was the most covered of the league's championships because of that finish, because of how that game was played, because the crowd was played. There's still potential, but it drives, I think, a lot of people more. It drives us nuts when we see instability. We go, nope, sorry, I'm not here for that anymore. I want a calmer, more football centric path. Thus, almost every other option right now is providing that in the arena and indoor space at this moment. Well,
Yeah, and I don't know. Are you kind of worried about it? Maybe they might even still have Vice TV next year because there was even because it was kind of weird. They were recording that we're hearing that they're doing a rebroadcast of a game last week, and then this game that's on YouTube now will be on Vice next week or a few days later. It's like, wait, what?
right,
It was like, okay, I'm kind of confused with there and it was like it's just weird like you say there's not really a business plan, like there's some type of plan but it looks like it's about a little bit fit more than 50% complete. It's still kind of weird to me what's going on because one thing like like there was this weird thing with the Beaumont Renegades, like they're saying like they're going to talk with the league and like they may not be there next year or in existence. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, that's going to be kind of hurt. And then, and all the teams, because another thing that happened here, because in a way it's kind of like a trade, if you will. When it came a former NAO team, which was the Idaho Horsemen, now they rebranded and moved from Idaho to Kearney, Nebraska, and now they're the Tri-City Horsemen.
mhm,
They're now in the American Arena League, and just in a few days ago, the Wheeling Miners that took runner up in the AAL Championship are now back in the National Arena League, and now it kind of looks like the Big 12 a few years ago. You got all these in the Midwest and just a little bit on the like not the East Coast side, but more kind of like into like east, almost into the Midwest region. So it's like, okay, you got some traveling there for once, but then when it comes to Wheeling for traveling, you just go there and then all the teams are just right here rather than going this way, that way, this way, that way. So it's like, okay,
right.
like probably if they expand a little bit more, probably be more heading east right now. So that was kind of interesting. It's especially after the name change. What did you think?
Well, I'll tell you, I was not totally surprised. I know that the folks that have been running the Horsemen, that we had understood they were, or at least conversation wise, they were going to try and make a comeback. And I think it's the right move. Is the thing. There's been a few places pitched around that they were wanting to go. Either we're going to say West Coast or maybe try and restart again elsewhere. And clearly, I think what they did was, they have established that they know what league they want to be. We are well aware that the Horsemen have intentions to go back to the NAL is what the plan we understand is. But to do that, you need to start at a spot, get your bearings, and get started and build up. And I think what they realize is they need to reevaluate what their objectives are, what realistically they could do, and the AAL fits their bill a little bit better. So they can sit down, get into a moon market out in Nebraska, similar area where the NAL is, and say they have two options. They can work with the AAL, help build the AAL to what a lot of the AAL teams want it to be, or okay, we'll use the AAL, we'll get a base, we'll get started here, we'll see what we got and how well we pull in for this first season. And if things go as we hopefully plan, jump to the NAL. You have a regional, grid from north to south running right down that mid America line that again fits that very nice and packaged group for these NAL teams for travel in terms of like, the audience they're looking for. West Virginia is an outlier, but again, it's I think West Virginia's been trying to find their way back to getting back up to that level again, and they're taking the leap once more. So again, it comes off as a smart decision. A team like this could rush right back into the NAL if they wanted, and could just do that. But I think again, and this is something I want more. Will I want teams to be smarter than what they're trying to do? Yes, it's always you look at the buffet in front of you and you go, "Dang, that's a lot of good eating right there." But the thing is, you only have so much stomach and so much room to eat. Or you need to be able to afford to go to the buffet. This is if it's a Vegas buffet, you got to have that money. Is the best way to put it. I know I'm making a weird analogy, but the truth is, yeah, I want that big piece of the pie too. But the thing is, I need to know what my budget is, and if I'm not balling right now, I got a ball on the budget, and the AAL is a good ball on the budget league right now. So I applaud that. Again, I think we need more sensible like team owners that understand that hey, there's a lot of levels and let's make sure that we're doing this right and like treat it almost as like a relegation promotion system in a way. And I think that's kind of what the best way of doing this moving forward is if you want these leagues to exist and to keep thriving and also kind of like have teams not crash and burn every year, treat it like that. Don't look at it as like find a way to make it where the AAL is kind of like one of these good starter leagues, and I think that's what they've been trying to do with Columbus and crew over there, and start somewhere and then move up or down or wherever you got to go, and make it work and make it work in a good way that it fits for the players and the fans, and doesn't look like it's a bush league operation, for the level you're at. So yeah, I like this, Will. I like what they did with that choice. And yeah, I like the plan that's going forward with them if they want to execute it, because the easy solution will be jumping the gun and possibly screwing it up a second time.
Yeah, hold on here. I think we have a comment here. It says Michael Livrup here. So, well, glad that he's doing better with his family situation. Rumors of
Yeah,
another arena league in the works. I'm like, oh, great, another one.
I saw Mr. Elliott comment that there was the case, which that's already got people in his comments. I saw stirring up that the folks up in Canada with that AFL trademark are trying to relaunch that, which I don't know if that's true, but you know, if it's league with former standing in the name, that was what I saw today. It's the only one I can think of. But like, I just want that brand. If that's the case, just leave the brand alone. Let it
Yeah,
rest. It had its time in the sun. You know.
yeah. D- Like you could just like not like there's some good ones that start up, but then like I'm still amazed how the international league is still going with all the hectic in there. It's it's like a collision that somehow everyone survived in a
Yeah.
way. It just like it's still going, but we'll talk about that later. When it comes to the other, like, because right now their plan is for the IFL for expansion. A lot of the owners they said that the max they want to do is 2014, which is like, well, that makes sense. And then the six teams, and of course, I don't know. As of right now, the other rumor ones, because there has been the rumor of the Bay Area Panthers coming back, but maybe in San Jose. I don't know how much stock in that rumor is. That probably could happen 1 or 2 years in a row to find out if that's true or not, because I do know that they do want to add more teams on the western side a bit more, especially. Then, I don't know, there's still that rumor of like on the East Coast and the North New England side of New Jersey, which is possible, but they still need to get some more teams up there if that happens.
Right, right. Well, remember we were hearing that they might expand that Mall of America series to be more so a an actual home venue. Which I mean, look, they've held hockey, but I still would be curious how that would work as a regular venue for an IFL venue arena. Um, but I mean, that's I remember Trenton. That was in that case was in play. It felt like it was in play or something in New Jersey, like you're talking about that. And to be fair, I mean, you look at the three. You look at what's coming in. They have 14 right now. There's no sign that any of these teams are dropping out that I can tell for next year. So you add currently three. That's 17, and the rumors are that they're doing a split for sure still with the West and East. So do you get to even 18 next year? What is the 18th team if they want to get to that? And clearly, if it's 24, they have some leeway. And yes, I think they want at least a little more. I think even balance in terms of the national footprint. But credit, they're also national with a regional flair. I mean, we see Athens and Savannah, and also what they did with Orlando this year, Will, and a lot of that I think is to appease Jacksonville because they came in with the promise of, okay, we're in now. Now give us teams around us, so we aren't just traveling across the country. So I think that was definitely this year's step was, all right, let's shore up our Southeastern, kind of division or conference, if you will, and maybe we'll then look to another region to kind of build out as we go, like the Northeast, or back out west, like you're talking as well, or maybe more in that like Midwest to like Mid South kind of region. So yeah, I think that's kind of the plan. I'd be curious if they eventually get to divisions at some point within these
Yeah,
conferences because we are
yeah.
getting some big conference numbers with teams if we get to 18.
Like I can see like if they like right now it's East and West, but then pretty soon it'd be like, okay, we got the on the we got two divisions in the West, Northwest, Southwest, and Northeast, Southeast there, which is a possibility because then you have 8 teams that do that, and that
Mhm.
lot better rivalry wise for the travel. I can see that. Though, hold on here. Okay. Though we'll just have to see, and then especially when the Texas team, the Texas draft, I still think they're probably going to rename that after a year or two once they find a place. It just seems weird to call it the draft, in my humble opinion. It just doesn't really roll off the tongue. It's just like and you get like in game. Is it like or announcers go like let's go draft? It's like doesn't really have a good amount of spin to it, if you will. So and what
Right.
would be the mascot?
Oh man, I think it's a horse, is it not? I think that was what I had seen. Because I believe, and I've
Yeah,
been
it's a horse, though. Is it a horse, a pony? Like, there's different breeds of horses, so I
but now,
digress.
and this is why I'm asking. Oh, and this is why I think it's the case. So I understood that I thought it was supposed to be a draft horse, which is a type of horse, kind of like I guess think like Clydesdales, if I'm looking at this right here. Large, powerful workhorse bred to pull heavy loads, is what it says. Which I mean, there's ranches in Texas and in Austin. Um, I mean, it's different, while also leading into a certain mascot. So
Like,
there's
if they
that.
called it draft horses, that makes more sense. Just draft is
Right.
doesn't go.
I think that they were just like, maybe it rolls off the tongue. That's my guess. That's the
I'm
guess I'm
kind
going.
I'm kind of wondering with the AF1 team, the Austin Bulls, because we have to remind that the main team in that town is the Texas Longhorns with the school.
Hmm.
Like, could there be a chance? Because according to their AI stuff on their set, they're showing orange and black colors, and I'm like, mm, you like University of Texas may try to challenge something there if that's actually their
Right.
color.
Well, I mean, it does look. I mean, I'm looking at it again, Will, and I mean, that is a slippery slope if I've ever seen it. Because like even the orange is really close. I didn't think about that, but I mean, look, we're in an era where like even AF1 had a lawsuit friendly with Nike just this past year over. Air Force Ones and like all that jazz. So not out of the realm. But again, like besides that, I just find it again. I find this whole interesting thing. I credit we've said enough about AF1 in terms of what they need to correct themselves on. I just find it interesting. They are trying to do this very toe for toe, market for market type of like strategy where it's like trying to go head to head with the IFL. And I know it it pisses a lot of people off, pardon my language, that I think are like picking the sides. But I just find it fascinating because to me it makes I think any other one else in business it would make no sense to do that. You know, it almost feels like you're doing it just to stir the pot up a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah. It's like, honestly, though, here's the thing, the AF1 hasn't even been around for 5 years yet.
Yeah,
So,
we're just going into its third off season. If we're
so
counting even the beginning of its first year. So crazy to think that too.
yeah, they just need to slow down a little bit. And just a reminder for people, like the new teams in the AAL, of course, is the two Texas teams, the North Texas team that people thought the NAL was going to get. Now they're the North Texas team. Actually, that's a little bit more better than Frisco's team, in my humble opinion.
Right.
Tri City Horsemen, you got the Ohio Legends with an interesting mascot. Looks kind of like more of a video game character from like Overwatch. Uh, then just a reminder, national, of course, nationally they lost the Texas team, but they gained the Apex, which you didn't really
Yep.
lose anything. Then that's about it. And so far with expansion stuff, of course, heck, we could find out a heck another things coming, and heck, we could hear of another the Arena League team move somewhere else. We never know, but I think for the IFL, they're pretty much done for this year at the moment because they want to because they said in the interviews that for expansion team they want to have like 1 to 2 year plan before they come into fruition, which it's so far with these other arena leagues it's not that long.
Yeah, and again, that's the gold standard. I really I know I sound like a broken record, Will, because I've come on here at least I think every other show I say this is that should be the standard industry wide is a 1 year prep year and a second year like lead into the season. So basically a 2 year runway. Because I mean, as we've seen, it works. Again, first off, it proves that you have the financial commitment to do this. So you're not just having to rush job into it. You make these owners understand that what you're buying and what you need to get, and then they check off the boxes along the way. Their first year, they get a lot of knowledge from the owners that they're with, and then that second year, it's all about building the roster. And you have these pieces together where you're not focused on buying all this crap you need or like all the infrastructure stuff you need. It's all about just getting the football right. And that to me, I don't understand why, besides the chase for money and expansion fees, why this is not the standard across the board. Because the IFL's proven that's what you need. 2 years is the golden number for most teams, I think, to understand what you're getting into and to truly know what your costs are before you dive into this thing. And again, it also avoids headache and PR backlash for the fact that you do not have to worry about having to do damage control if someone closes shop mid-season. So I say this again, that's just what I want, and that's what I think everyone wants that too. Is the similar deal.
Michael Lathrop comes with another comment. Leagues get desperate with revolving door teams. Can't imagine there's a long list of potential super ownership programs which pigeonholes leagues with markets.
Yeah,
Which kind of true. And yeah, it's as and I'll just have like because every year we say, "Hey, we got this arena team." Heck, I think I saw there's supposed to be supposedly a and Stephen Titus. This was mentioned to Stephen Titus last week on his tweets that I went over. Like now, there's a possibly of a Wyoming team coming, or like because or some from somewhere, and
right.
it just that it just amazes me on just all the like because we've already been through with arena football like with even with leagues like there's going to be a team coming then all of a sudden it doesn't show up and it turns out to be a scam or
Right.
or it just incompetent ownership. Like, because honestly, here's the thing: it's been about 2 years, and we haven't heard anything for the person that took over the Carolina Cobras. That's pretty much, I think, gone.
Remember the Columbus Wild Dogs or the Ontario Bandits?
Yeah, that, of course we can't we can't forget about those lowly and probably the only European teams in the International League that are now gone and
Oh man.
came over to the European Stars. That
Yeah. I'm very much curious, and this is another thing with the Titus discussion, Will, is we had understood he was debating last year on launching a team, and he is from Wyoming, so very much more comfortable there. You know, part of what is a, slippery slope with how vocal he is you can burn bridges very easily with how uh, I'll say passionate Mr. Titus is, vocally publicly. But you know, if you are having internal strife with AF1, and yes, you do part own, um, I get his sentiments on debating on if he should launch a team right now and if this is like the right time, so to speak. So curious to see how that develops and how his role might evolve over time. Because last year it felt like up until the end of the year he was a very silent partner. Like some of us were wondering if he was even still involved, um, as well. And now it kind of feels like I think he might be more involved this offseason now if I'm going to have to take a stab at it. If he really, because he is passionate about the sport, I'm just curious, like what he will do or what his impact will be when that time comes. And then I think this is to tee off the IAL one again. I look at their website and the prep for this tournament, which by the way they've overhauled their website like a ton since I last checked. It's kind of crazy. I just can't believe they're going to look like actually finish the season because everything I had been hearing was that this was very much in desperation mode to get to the finish line. So I am not really sure where they've been getting things in order. I mean, credit, you know, I had understood players have been getting paid on the regular well, so that's always a good thing. But everything else I had heard, not so great and not so in organizationally uh, crystal clear, so to speak. So the fact that we are probably going to see an IAL championship is nuts. What happens after that? I have no freaking idea. I have no idea what's lying ahead for this. Besides the fact that Europe has to, if not is dead, man. You can't tell me they're
and
going to
they
try and do
can't
that
call
again.
the International Real League anymore unless they somehow get a team in Mexico or Canada. So
Oh,
they
hey, oh yeah, I forgot. Might as well add the Monterey Kings to the list of teams that were supposed to be promised and never came.
yeah,
Again,
that one, and then I swear there was another team that something happened, and then oh well, then of course we have to remind ourselves like, do we even think the Kentucky Barrels will be back next year with all the turmoil that happened there?
well, and I mean, I've looked through that roster, Will, and I mean, you know, looking at the teams on on the list, Beaumont, Kentucky. Um, I mean, the Stealth. I'm still curious. Technically, they have a new owner. That it sounds like everything I had heard was much more in step and kind of cleared out what was the issues with the team to start the year. Um, Beyond that, I mean, yeah, I mean, so like it could go anywhere from like at least in my head theoretically could be 5 to 6 of the teams that were start at the start of like post Oregon Lightning leaving. It could be five, and then like whatever gets expansion in. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, enough of this down talk. Let's talk about the IFL Championship, and it
Yes.
did not disappoint. And of course, as all most good games start with, of course, it started with a deuce, which was actually very good. And one thing too is that I thought that for the first year, the Yahoo Sports Network was a good partner for the IFL, and glad looks like they're going to be continuing it because like I watch most of the YouTube stream. I know they're streamed for Amazon and a few other things. Just though the overnight app, I'm not too sure about that one though, or the that one that they had for a few of the games that required a paywall. I'm not too sure
Right.
how successful that was, but Yahoo, I knew it was successful.
Well, and I think what the IFL did was a good setup for this year in the sense that you had two, I think, two partners that were different in terms of what they were looking for. Yahoo was definitely more for the exposure, more for I think general coverage. A lot of it was free and accessible, and also had a higher profile list of broadcasters and partners as well to kind of show off the product. And I think overnight, remember when they got paid, it was I think $2 million for a multi-year deal to go on to overnight. So overnight was definitely more a money chasing move in my eyes because you do have to still pay in, but you're getting a direct infusion of cash without expansion fees, mind you, into this league as well. So that helps with operating costs and also other items that can help expand your business too. So you got one side that was more the cash deal, and another side which I don't know what the details are, but Yahoo was definitely more so for the exposure because that was definitely more of the it's free, it's got big time star like more big time announcers on there, and Ben Stover leading the broadcasting kind of team as well. That and guy knows his biz and whatnot. So like that was the best of both worlds. Um, I think personally, I think fans would love to see more Yahoo, but overnight, I know we're at least going to get another year of overnight next year, most likely. What else they do? Who knows? Because I mean, they were trying to get a third partner with FanDuel, and
And
they
that
did,
blew
and
up.
that did blow up. Now I think they've learned their lesson that hey, if I'm the only thing that IFL would do, read some trade papers. That's the best I can tell you. Read some papers on the trade and on the broadcasting business and be a little bit more thorough because I'm telling you, that's probably what burned them with FanDuel. Most of us have been like myself. I'm a big, well, I work in TV as my normal job. I'm very invested with the television trade, like places like Sports Business Journal and Awful Announcing. I love reading that stuff, and I'll tell you, that was telegraphed for months that FanDuel was going under. It did not take a rocket scientist to know that those guys were probably calling their bluff a little bit. So be a little more thorough. Clearly, they still got a good deal at the end of the day. But if you want a third partner, just really dig in deep. I think that's the thing. The IFL, take a lesson from your expansion rules. Just be very thorough and almost be doubtful. I think make these guys prove if you have a partner that's the size you want that this isn't just some desperation grab thing. Because I think they've gotten tired up until this year of we pick a platform, that platform falls apart. We pick a platform, that platform goes away. And this year they finally got some stable partners. Good, stick to that plan. Stick with the guys because Yahoo being your corner, if they like that product, that could be a longer term solution than just a few years. Well, that's a good thing to have stability and to have someone in your corner like that. So then we go, okay, great. Now let's work on something else. So I'm not wasting my energy on trying to keep this like constantly happy and constantly, worrying about that. Because like say like, again, perfect example, AF1, Vice TV. I hope they come back next year. I have no idea. I don't want to worry about that. But that's the thing. It's better to be in the IFL's position like that than anyone else's right now, where you can kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride a little bit.
And also be interesting what the NAL does because they did their NAL network like how the IFL did.
Yes.
So I want now they have the data to do some selling for next year. I probably think like they should probably do some more regional local stuff because of how close they are in mid-America in my humble opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and do it that way. Then of course I don't know, the one downfall that I had with the arena league, because remember they're all back on YouTube now, but they had some like some type of service on their website, and now that part's dead. It wasn't even used, and they even used that for their stats, and they didn't have that this year. There was no way to keep control of the stats of the games like they
Yeah.
were. I was like, why did you abandon that or even mention you're not doing that no more? That was still part of their website and still kind of is, but it's just
Yeah.
non-functional and abandoned ghost town.
It's got to be within your means. That's the thing. It's got to be within your means is the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah,
So,
and going to the IFL Championship course, it was the Arizona Rattlers at Green Bay Blizzard. You got the former quarterback around Kamari Clark, which Kamari Clark actually did some stuff here because he was actually didn't really do much the last few weeks.
yeah.
But Max Maylor, he did, and then of course Liam Thompson, their quarterback. Though Liam Thompson actually did a lot more on the ground than I thought he would. Did he got actually over 100 yards rushing on the ground for him? So, but this was kind of interesting because either with championships either go, it's going to be offensive back and forth, but it actually started a little bit more slower. Then it started actually to get a little bit more going back and forth. We got a little bit more deuces. We got some better defense, even though it was still technically a high scoring game.
Hmm.
But it was fantastic how to end it. Both the running backs did get some good play in it too. I still, yeah, I still want a little bit more of the rushing because now, like we had a few running backs get 100-yard games. Not much, not much, but I still kind of want to get a little bit more of that. And uh, I don't know. I wish the IFLs did Nets, but I know why they did it. That's their prerogative and all that
It,
stuff.
it is what it is. What it is. I used to be. I still, got my preference, but at this point, Will, it's almost not even worth me fighting anymore.
No,
But that being said, uh, I'll tell you, great great IFL game in terms of like what the IFL does well. Introducing a really some excellent players that can do it all and are guys behind center that they can get out and break contain. They can run RPO. They can deliver high intensity passes when needed. That was a very good textbook IFL contest. And honestly, again, you had MVP from last year taking on MVP from this year. It was definitely a good storybook ending. And Arizona, coming out and also showing out just down the way in Tucson, that added on to I think the flair as
they didn't have
well.
to travel that far. Their fans on to be
No, they did
quite.
not. No, it was actually funny because like I will say a little anecdote because I am in one of the Rattlers fan groups in Facebook, and I saw one of them was like, "Why are Tucson fans cheering against us?" And I'm like, I don't know. Why do you think they're cheering against you? Could it be that they're technically rivals to you? Could it be that that the Tucson used to technically be like a minor league team for Arizona in a sense? I mean, like I got reasons all day, but you know, take it as you will. Please pick one. I got a whole like trophy case of these things.
That's
But
like
you know,
why to me that's like the equivalent of why are Angels fans booing Dodger players. It's
I
like
was gonna say, like, what are you talking about?
or or I'll do it for where you're from. Chicago White Sox fans not cheering on Cubs players.
Oh yeah,
It's
let's
just
say
like
why
it's not gonna work.
no.
Or even the Mets or how Boston Red Sox and Yankee players. That's the more heated one on the top on that board. Or heck, even college. Like even if there's a college all star. Never mind. Yeah, it was good. I liked what was going on, like the game, and I do like Tucson's arena though, it's it's because they use that for hockey, and you see both the American and the Canadian flag, and it's like very designed. It's like it's perfect for the arena football, and they have about 2 more years and for the championship game for that, right? I think it was a 3 year interval that they're doing for the
Yeah, I
championship.
mean, I believe so. So it shouldn't be moving just yet. And it's been solid. I mean, look, I don't think it's a bad venue. It's not the worst venue I've been for any indoor arena. Um, Being there in person, and also just maybe because I'm spoiled because I do have all three I can go visit with like Northern Arizona and uh, the Rattlers as well. It's not my favorite of the three, but it does put on a good contest and it can get loud. So I do got to give tips. Plus, I mean, it's easy accessible in Tucson. Parking there is, I believe it's free, if not like super cheap. When I went last time to a Sugar Skulls game, so yeah, I mean, great spot. And again, like, if the league, this is what they like is, if the league gets like say Arizona, you can get people from up the way that buy tickets and that helps, jump up the game a little bit, or even say Tucson if they were somehow to get good. They got better towards the end of the year. They're a little more independent this year moving forward of, previous ownership and previous, obligations to said ownership, if you will. So I mean that also helps. Um, but I love this game in the sense like later on it did get more hectic. And to me, Will, the one thing that really sticks out, we talk about, especially in the IFL, kicking and extra points and these field goals, you know, with a more defensive game at times. Now, credit, a lot more offense has been generated last years, but like when it gets defensive. Field goals, kickers in this league. Um, these are the best kickers in the sport right now overall. Um, and when you have an event like on special teams that changes some of the dynamic possession by possession, that can be a nail in the coffin. And we saw midway through the fourth quarter, you have an extra point get essentially blocked in return for two
Yep.
points, opens it up 3 points. Arizona goes down, scores, goes up 10. And at that point, the question is, okay, well, crap. If you know the sport, you're expected to score almost every possession. So the pressure is put really hard on Green Bay to either get a surprise onside on a touchdown or somehow find a way to will yourself to stop. And really just what happened is, they missed an opportunity, lost a possession on a turnover earlier in the game that kind of made it like this back and forth affair. And lo and behold, Max Mailer was able to deliver at the end, and quite frankly, time ran out on Green Bay. Just small points, dink and dunk, chip away, make a lead that looks manageable, kind of grow a little unmanageable, and that's what happened. But it did make a really good game, and that's kind of again, that's the stuff that does make the IFL game what people love is like, you know, it does retain the outdoor stuff that a lot of people like, while also the intensity of the 50-yard setting in the walls and whatnot. So, you know, uh, great finish and really solid championship game. Personally, I will say though, Will, last year's was a bit better with that fourth down stand. It's hard to kind of pass that over, but a really solid end of the year affair that felt like it was still anyone's game all the way down to like, you know, really up until Arizona put Matthew Cook in, or sorry, score a touchdown with Matthew, then hitting the extra point. Sorry, I read the stats wrong, but yeah, I mean, it was up until like a minute left. It kind of felt like it was still anyone's game.
Yeah, and it also was good that I I've seen a play. It was like it hit a Green Bay player, then an Arizona player, then Green Bay
Oh my
player caught it.
gosh, yes,
That
that
got
that
number
that was
two in the top
insane.
10 on ESPN.
That catch was unreal, and the fact that it bounced that crazy way it did, that's just a 1 in a million thing. And again, it's just like the IFL, especially this like last year and a half, I would say, since I've been trying to pay a little more attention. They've been getting a lot more web gem type of plays like that, and I think also it just speaks to like the level of players coming in are getting a bit better. My question is, I hope that these teams, I know that they do turn them over a little bit by design, but I hope some of these teams keep these stars because I think you do want to rally some of these teams to be more recognizable and to grow the league by keeping the stars you can promote. So, like a Max Miller or a Liam Thompson, these are some great players. These are guys you can help promote a league and excitement with. Um, credit you want them to go up and to the next level. That's the IFL's message too, is they want you to maybe in not as brash terms as like as a Mike Rapoli, where it's like, I hope to not see you again. But in their way, say, hey, go and find your way. We're just a step along the way. Is what they want. I don't know. It's kind of a. I'm curious how they handle that because I mean they got some great talents that they could really promote if they wanted to, and like add as like stars and make those bigger names and like put them on a pedestal, so to speak. Especially Liam, these two from this contest.
Yeah, because see, here's the thing though, because out of all like, because you got four new teams next year, and I have a feeling, especially with Rob Keefe as the head coach of the Athens team, he's going to probably be able to talk to some star players from other teams to come to Athens,
Yeah.
especially if they were from. I expect some players from Orlando Pirates to get over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, though, I have a question because this is kind of year of the. I have a little bit of IFL here. Which was probably the worst team? The New Mexico Chupacabras or the Iowa Barnstormers?
I got to go with Iowa just a
Yep.
little bit. I mean,
They
trust me, New Mexico was looking, it was tracking that way. They did kind of clean some things up and got some wins to end the year. Still some stuff to clean up, but I think those guys understood the assignment eventually there. Iowa, I don't know how to fix Iowa. That feels like a very systemic problem, ownership
that
wise.
seems like it
And
needs to have a total reboot of not just the coaching, the players, but also the front office.
I gotta be honest, Will. I almost want ownership to sell to someone that has a little bit more passion for it. Just I know that seems a little brash, but I mean Iowa used to mean something. as a team in the space. It still does to many people, but it's a shell of itself. And I think a lot of it, I talk to folks that know that space or fans in that ownership from like that group, and it feels like the owners are not as passionate or trying to be as I think I would say eager to grow this team and make it competitive as others. And I hope that changes. I really do. Because I think the other solution, if you don't like find it in yourself, is to sell. I would love this team to somehow go to a different owner that really badly just wants to win, and that's the main thing they're focused on.
Yeah, and I think throughout the whole when it comes to all the real league teams, I think you and I probably agreed that the most improved franchise probably was the Washington Wolfpack.
Yes, I could speak that very much so, with even a little more personal involvement. That yes, very much the most improved. I would say in the overall in the space.
Yep.
There's definitely some things to grow on. I think those things will be happening based on what I know from the team, but very much a banner year for some turnaround and also business wise too. They're building up a campus out there for the Wolfpack. They bought a warehouse and they're building that up and going to do kind of like what San Antonio did with the Gunslingers facility. So like I love those moves. Like that's investing in the community, investing in your team more, uh kind of showing like face that they're there for the long haul. That's great, and I think to me, we I not to bring up again, but like that's an example like AF1 where it's like, do you really want to piss off a team that's doing everything right? Like by continuing to like fumble the bag when you're doing things wrong. Again, just this is a real reality check off season for those guys because there are teams like a Wolfpack or a Nashville, or even like a Minnesota that they're coming in, they're doing the right things, they're seeing these other things happen. Go, guys, what the hell? I came in and had my stuff together. Why is no one else doing it right like this? Or why are we not being honest? So yeah, thumbs up to Washington. I only have great things for them ahead, and I hope I can catch a game sometime out here on the West Coast. Just going to Seattle in September at the beginning of next month, and maybe I'll swing by Everett and try and spot the warehouse facility. Maybe I'll run into someone. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and then I think we'll close on just like a little bit more of the international league talk because just to let everyone know, this last weekend game, the Arizona Juggernauts beat the Las Vegas Rockers 64-48. And that weird bracket, like I said, the whole tournament's weird. It feels like I don't know, like they have a winners bracket, loser bracket. It feels like I'm back during my high school wrestling days in that tournament type format.
Hmm.
It doesn't really work in football, in my humble opinion, because that tournament's
Yeah.
in one day, not just several months. So it's weird to me. Then the Cincinnati Slingers beat the Utah Great Eggs at a very close game, 43-39. They do get decent viewership on YouTube, I will say that. So, but I don't know, like you said, it's just like, what's their plan next? It just,
Hard to say. I had heard since like early July that this was a high chance it wouldn't finish the year. I think the fact that it is crazy. I truly believe still, after like based on a conversation we had last time on here, I still think that they try to maybe merge with a smaller league or like converge like assets into like one or two teams to try and go to a league like that. Otherwise, I just don't see this going on next year. Or if it does, it's going to rebrand and it's going to be much smaller scale than what it was projecting itself. Just my 2 cents. I don't see it being what it was trying to be at the beginning of the year.
yeah,
So
I gotcha. And the only game that they're having, it's part of I guess if I recall correctly, it's either part of because it's weird because Utah actually has a bye. Because I remember when they did it, there were supposed to be two games this weekend, but it's
yep.
only just one. But now, then the following week, it's going to be both the winner of the losers bracket, then basically for third place. That, like I said, it's similar to a high school wrestling style tournament. Then for the championship, it's like uh, it's just weird for me to see this type of format before on there.
Yeah.
Honestly, between the Cincinnati and the Juggernaut, I'll go with Cincinnati here, but barely. It's going to be a close one with these two.
Yeah, my money is probably on Cincinnati, and I'm going to say that they will likely win it all. Is going to be my guess. So I'm going to take the Rockers to finish the year on top. Utah's been solid though, but no, my money's on Cincinnati, and then Arizona's been up and down. They've been pretty inconsistent when I've tried to follow them all year. I just think the Rockers have the best built roster right now. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll just have to see, and we'll see about that soon. So that would do for us for this edition of Arena Frontier on Gateway Sports. There will not be a show next week. It can't really do a show with just one game, and there's going to be news coming after next week, because then we're finally going to really see if Athens is actually going to be called the Bullfrogs. I'm still, like we said, that's probably the big money on there, unless
yeah.
something different. Then more about Savannah, because we already said they got a head coach, they got a director of personnel. What's the team going to be called there? And like I said, forward, that's going to be a good in-state rivalry. It's only a 4-hour drive, exactly about a 4-hour drive between Savannah and Athens.
Right.
So it'll be good there, and then we'll see what the other leagues do, because as far as I know, IFL's done, National Arena League's done. I thought the AAL was done until Wheeling went and then all that stuff. So right now it's probably just the AF1, and honestly, I could care less about the AIF. So
Yeah, yeah, maybe not so much that. I think we're good without that.
yeah, if somehow Western Michigan Ironman, if they move, I'll be like, finally, you made the right decision. But
That's a whole other show. If that ever
yeah.
comes.
All right.
Oh,
So thank you, Zach, for joining me again this evening. We'll probably be talking more in the future, and hopefully maybe something like a good TV deal for the IFL, or some maybe by the National Arena League here in a few months,
yeah,
because
maybe.
so we'll have to see there. So thank you all for joining me this evening with Zach, and see you all in 2 weeks.